everybody, and welcome to the podcast. As you can see, we have a little bit of a different setup today. I got this guy. I don't know. We found him. We brought him in from he's one of the greatest leaders in the country, Joe Cala, all the way in South Carolina. Joe, good to have you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
You know what? I want to thank you out of the gate on this. We've been talking for a couple of months about doing a podcast, and I was like, oh man, I only do the stuff in studio here. And, I was like, well, I've been wanting to do this thing with getting guests on from around the country and, even around the world. And I was like, look at you, man. You got me stepping out. We're taking new ground right now.
I love it. That's awesome.
I love it too, bro. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
No, you're welcome. Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're going to have a good time. Joe, the title of the podcast is The Spiritual Leader.
Okay.
I don't know. It's a name we had in Stern a few years ago. What episode are we on? We're about to hit 200? Yeah, we're about to hit 200, a couple more. If you and I make it to 3, we're going to hit the 200, but I might want to get my wife on for the 200th.
That's awesome.
No offense to you, but
No,
none taken, right?
We're good.
We're good.
Hey, listen.
I'm not going to lie, bro. I mean, my wife is just way prettier than you. So
listen, I agree. And if that one thing right there was going to cause offense, then the last 26 years of our friendship, bro, I don't even know the things that we've said back and forth to each other on the phone.
Hey, I'm just glad. Let's hope the FBI hasn't tapped our calls at all. No, Joe, when we were talking a few months ago, we got into just talking about leadership, and one particular thing jumped out on the call, which we're going to focus on today, and it really was on empowerment.
Right.
Empowering, those people around us. You're a minister as well.
Yes.
You're also, have been working in the secular world for many, many years in different capacities. But I'm going to kind of just throw the ball over to your court and maybe just jump in where we kind of talked a little where it takes us.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yep.
No problem. So, one of the things I think that's important when it comes to leadership, obviously this is a spiritual leader, right? So the number one thing is keeping ourselves accountable. First of all, accountability for leadership is vital. And I think that, as leaders, sometimes, especially if you're the leader of the organization, sometimes we can become an island to ourselves. And we cut ourselves off from the influence and accountability of others, right? Just because we're the leader. So, but what I've discovered is the longer I've been doing these types of leadership roles and manager roles and working with people who are in high levels of leadership, I'm realizing that mentorship, coaching, and putting and submitting ourselves to someone else is vital for the long-term success of our leadership. And if we can't allow ourselves, like you said before, we've got to be humble, right? And humble ourselves. It's just, the scripture tells us to humble ourselves under the mighty hand of God. And then what happens from there? He'll exalt us, right? So it's in that state of humbling ourselves under someone else's authority or someone else's mentorship or coaching, from them. It's going to only make us better. And what it does is it opens up our teachability and our learnability as well. We've got to be a learn-it-all, not a know-it-all. We want to continue to always be learning, always be pliable, right? And allowing ourselves to be shaped, even though there are things that we have to stay concrete in. Yes, there are some things that we have to stay rigid with, but we also have to be shaped continually, allowing the things to come into us to give us, better insights and perspective on things. Right. So I
love, I'm going to take some of these points as you're giving them and we'll hash them out. 'Cause I'm just like, wow, right out of the gate. I'm like, that accountability is just smacking me upside the head right now.
Yeah.
How do you I'm sure there's different people that listen to the podcast. I'm sure there's maybe pastors, just Christians, you got husbands, wives, parents, employees, employers.
Right.
in the different contexts, how does someone go about making themselves accountable? Like the first thing that jumped into my mind was like somebody that's like a CEO, like maybe they're going to have some kind of a board of directors, there's an accountability factor there,
Right.
but just maybe in some of the context you and I were talking about, maybe pastors of, smaller churches or whatever, they're going to have a little less accountability unless they factor some in.
Right.
So
Yeah.
what would you suggest maybe to somebody listening, like, how do you make yourself accountable to do better?
Yeah. Well, I think accountability starts with accessibility. Somebody needs to be accessible, right? So if you don't allow yourself to have accessibility to someone else, then you can't have accountability to someone else, right? So many times I think leaders shut the gate and they have the gatekeepers in the front, not allowing anybody access to them. And so, I'll be honest with you. I work with automotive dealerships for a long, long time. I talk to dealer principals. I talk to people who own dealerships who are worth millions and even some billions of dollars, right? And I've had access to some of these people who have, again, from a phone call, I can contact them and get through to them easier than I can sometimes pastors who are pastoring a church of 15 or 20 or 50 people or 100 people. And so the reason why I say this is because accessibility is the first part. And so many times, of course, look, I've talked to, and again, in the world of sales that I'm in, I do cold calls. I've reached out, tried to, sell things, services, different products and such. And so by doing that, sometimes it's just very difficult to get access to the leader, to the person in charge, right? And so in doing so, there's got to be, and again, the reason why I understand you have to protect that person as well, because there are people who will try to get to them and waste their time and drain their time. And so I'm not saying the gatekeepers and stuff are bad. I'm not saying that limited access is bad, but what I am saying is that there still needs to be, as a leader, you still have to sometimes break your own rule and let yourself have that accessibility to others that you never realized were even somebody that you thought you wouldn't need nothing from, and all of a sudden they give you that one word, or they provide to you that one thing that all of a sudden allows you to go outside and take new ground. Like, for example, if I didn't have access to you, we wouldn't be on a StreamYard doing a podcast from Florida, Live Oak to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina.
Yeah. And I love that.
Yeah.
Really what I'm hearing and what you're saying is, as a leader or head of anything, there really needs to be, we need to have in our own self an openness.
Yeah.
To, if somebody comes across our path, maybe that's out of the ordinary, or we see the need to set up some kind of a measures of accountability, we need to have that openness to say, I need to let this happen. I need to be okay with this. Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cause you're describing an island, and really, let me ask you this, in your line of work, and you've seen both ministry and what you're describing is in the auto business sector. How many times have you seen scenarios where people, what do you call it, where they shut down? They just were not open, and they just kept going down a wrong path, and things just didn't, just ended up they had to shut the doors. Have you seen that?
Well, yeah. I mean, the people who end up usually shutting doors, or the people who they're not able to continue in whatever it is that they have, many times it's because they've allowed themselves to stay away from other help and people that can maybe speak into their life and give them guidance, or maybe help them take steps to get further, right? And leadership is for the strong. It's not for the weak, right? It's not for the timid. You can't have a weak backbone. You've got to sometimes say the hard things. You sometimes have to do the things that aren't going to be popular. You're going to say things that are going to hurt people's feelings and are not going to be happy all the time, right? It's just going to happen, right? And so, but you have to be able to have that strength to be able to at least get wisdom. And, the Bible says there's wisdom in the multitude of counselors, right? So by keeping ourselves accountable, and connected to people that can give us and that trusted voice that can maybe, give us that guidance, then that can sometimes provide us the ability to not have to close the doors, right? To not have to shut things down because we've gotten that help, and there's, strength in numbers, right? So we understand that, yes, alone we might be able to accomplish some things, but what? Two are better than one, and then a three-cord strand, it's not easily broken. So we, this is a spiritual leadership we're talking about. So as spiritual leaders, we have access to the greatest, coach there is, the Holy Spirit, right?
Yeah.
So we should rely on the voice of God and the Spirit of God to give us that green light and that, okay to let somebody, at least hear them out. And that's one of the things that I've, like I had somebody knock at my door the other day, right? Immediately my like, get out of here kind of comes up, right? As soon as like I hear that, knock on the door, ring the doorbell, I'll see somebody.
That's usually what I do when I see your name come on my phone.
Yeah, I know.
Oh.
Yeah, you just usually hit decline, right? I
Totally
know.
kidding.
That's why I called you 3 times the other day in a row.
I didn't see any of those calls.
Yeah, I know. So that's what happens when you have someone blocked. You usually don't see it.
I forgot to apologize. Joe is from New Jersey, so he's going to be a little rough around the edges. He pulls the South Carolina card out, but I know his true colors. I know his true colors. So.
Listen, y'all. Okay.
Listen, y'all.
Just to show you, I am living in the South. But yeah, so I think what happens is as someone who's a spiritual leader, right? So we have to allow ourselves access, especially by the Holy Spirit, right? So I've even let myself actually have conversations. Like sometimes, like I said, the person at the door, knocking on the door, wanting to go ahead and give me something or try to sell me something or sell solar or whatever it is. I let these guys actually talk. And the reason why I want to hear them, first of all, I want to hear how good they are or how bad they are. And then if they're not good, I'm going to actually probably give them some training on the spot. That's just how I am. And because at the end of the day, I have to remember that I'm in this world and there's people that I'm going to have access to. And I might be, and one guy said to me, he's like, look, you're the nicest person I've knocked on doors for a long time. You're one of the nicest people I've ever had who answered the door and allowed me to talk to them. I said, well, thanks. I appreciate that. And because let's not forget, I was in the gym the other day and somebody said, don't you go to Palmetto Point Church? I'm like, yeah, I do actually. And I didn't know this guy. And how the heck did I even know he knew me, right? So people are watching. I'll never forget the story when I was at, it was in the mall. It was years ago, back when I was in New Jersey. And I think it was in Kohl's. No, not Kohl's. It might have been in Macy's. I forget which one it is. But I was upstairs and I was doing something and I was talking to the lady behind the counter and she was, not helping at all. And there was a situation inside that I was feeling like I could very easily say something or start to lose my patience and let it just all out, right? And I didn't. And as I sat and allowed myself to not let that happen, somebody tapped me on the shoulder and said, hey, you were preaching at that church over in Tom's River, Abundant Grace Church, just the other day, weren't you? I didn't know what this person, I didn't see him there. And I'm telling you, people are watching you and you never know where you're going to see them. So if you give them a piece of your mind, like as if you can afford to lose it, right? And you give them, something that a colorful word or whatever, that's not always necessarily the best thing. So the reason why I'm saying all this is because you've got to keep yourself open to how you respond to people and let yourself at least hear them out first, or maybe again, stay accessible enough so that you can again have something from them that you never thought you would need. So
yeah, and I'm hearing it over and over again as you're talking, like this. It's humility.
Yeah.
And I'm seeing even with the spiritual leader side of things, like the humility, it really does kind of show itself in what you're describing, like an openness, a genuine. Let's put it. This is where the rubber meets the road on this thing. Leaders. Really, your heart should be to be for people, especially as a spiritual leader, right?
Right.
I mean, I think like if especially we're talking about pastors or ministers. I mean, if we're not in it for people, you're probably in it for the wrong reason, right?
Yeah.
But just to have an openness to hear from another person, to be humble enough to take the time out to say, this may be an inconvenience in my schedule. This is not what I had on my calendar, but this thing popped up here. I heard, I'm listening. I want to take a moment, here. I think probably some of the best input, feedback, maybe breakthroughs, whatever you want to call it, probably happen in those moments of I'm open enough to allow this even to happen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I would think that's probably a big key, but I keep hearing that over and over again, listening to this conversation, like humility kind of shows itself as I'm open.
Yeah.
Because what you described in the beginning was someone that's becomes an island. They're closed off from any advice, any help, anything. And I think, what does the scripture say? Pride comes before a fall.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
It's crazy, man. It's really powerful.
How accessible are people on an island, right? Like sometimes, you got to have all these different ways to get to them. And then, yeah, you could maybe get to them, but if you're having, it's sometimes very difficult because you have to take different ways of transportation to get to an island. So, it goes back to something we were talking about before we pressed, start here, and that was insecurity. I think at times we become insecure that maybe we don't know all the answers, or we feel like if we show that we didn't know something, that was a sign of weakness, when in reality it's not. It's okay to not know it all, right? It's okay. The more we know, the more we realize how much we don't know. I mean, I think that's what I've discovered. The more I begin to learn about something, the more I realize how much I have to learn still about something or about life. And some things, the scripture we understand is multifaceted, right? You can look at scripture and based off of the knowledge that you have in your mind and brain and what's going on right now, where you are, you can listen to something, and now all of that is filtered through the knowledge of what you have now. Well, a year from now, you have a year's worth of knowledge now that gets inputted, and now you hear the same scripture and it's completely a different way of looking at it, because now you have a whole new full year of knowledge and life experience that now filters that to make you see it differently now. So I feel like if we allow ourselves to stay open, like you were saying, it provides to us the ability to cause us to have strength and be more secure in ourselves rather than insecure in our ability to lead. And so I think that the insecurity also it causes us to not only allow people access, but then it also it stops us from empowering others to take roles of leadership as well. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I keep thinking of not to be over spiritual over here, but I keep thinking of Jesus, when he was on the earth, he had those disciples around him, and oftentimes he included them in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he would even ask them questions.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm thinking of the time where he said to Peter, like, who do men, he asked all the disciples, who do men say that I am? Right. And he's listening for their answers, their feedback. At least Jesus is open to hear from those around him.
Yeah.
Right. And he would oftentimes empower them. But I love that, Joe. And I got to be honest with you, man. I'm just really, really stirred just having this conversation right now. You stir up that leadership stuff in me every time you and I talk.
Yeah, I love it.
We get stirred up about, leadership and different things. But I want to, would you do another podcast?
Yes.
Because we're reaching our, I see my clock flashing here beside me.
Yeah.
So I'm going to wrap this one up here in a second, but I want to pick up on the next podcast, talking about empowerment, because I feel like we set the stage here for like leadership. Like leaders are really, they're, like you said, influencers, but they're really called to empower and release the others around them. And that really takes a certain set of skills and tools that we've got to employ as leaders to involve and include the ones that are around us that we're actually leading, right?
Yeah.
So I want to jump into that on the next podcast, talking about empowering
I like it.
the ones that are around us and actually getting the good things that are in them released in what we're doing.
I like it.
Is that cool, man?
Yeah, I love it.
Hey, thanks again for jumping on with me today.
You're welcome.
I'm fired up about it, bro.
Yeah, me too, man. Thank you.
Not just because you and I are talking, but just we're talking about what we're talking about. It gets me stirred up, man.
Yeah, me too. Every time we have these conversations, it's always a good thing. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you, bro.
You're welcome.
All right, man. Well, we'll call it on this one. Thank you guys for listening today. I trust you're kind of honing in. This is probably a little bit more focused on leadership on this podcast as we're Joe and I are here talking. We're going to continue on that. So catch us on the next one, talking about everybody can become a better leader. So we're going to be talking about empowering you to empower those around you. So you don't want to miss that. Hey, we'll see you real soon. God bless.